and can everyone hear me properly? Alright, so my name is Haya Fatima Iqbal and I make documentaries. I'm a filmmaker with a background in journalism. And I'm just here to talk a little about the kind of work I do and what I've experienced and learned from it all this while. So what happens is that when we make films, our lives actually revolve around walking into the spaces and the lives of other people, and then we have to spend time in the world they occupy in this space. And while we do that, wow, this is definitely not a bright situation. This needs to go down. So, and then after that, what happens is that you also are obviously supposed to provide people with stories that are truthful and that are moving out of those complicated situations that you may sometimes come across in the field. Now, also, something that happens to a lot of us filmmakers, a lot of people who are journalists, a lot of people who are documentary filmmakers, is that we are often thinking about other people's lives so much that on any given day, that when someone asks us about our own work, I for one feel like the conversation is not going in the right direction, because I'm so habitual of asking questions to other people and sort of being curious about the lives they lead and the kind of lives they spend in their spaces, that when people ask me to talk about my own work, things get a little complicated. Also, what often happens with me and a lot of others like me is that when people think of our work, they think that we live these jet-set lifestyles where we are always hopping on a plane, hopping off a plane, taking flights to worlds unexplored before, and we just get a chance to travel all across the world, or we get a chance to travel all across the country, and we meet new people, we explore new cultures, and we travel a lot, and that's it. Sadly, that is not the case, and what usually may look like a series of physical feats to a lot of other people. What I want people to realize today is that documentary filmmaking is a highly complicated exercise of the mind, and it's very, very, very serious work. Why? Because you have to walk into someone else's space and then still make sure that you don't come across as very intrusive. So you will spend hours and hours or sometimes days and nights in other people's houses, but you want to make sure that they don't think that we're invading their space. You have to come across a lot of cultural differences, but you want to also make sure that despite the cultural differences that you and your documentary characters may see among each other, the take-home point should be that they should be able to realize that you and them also share a lot of similarities among each other. Oftentimes, when you walk in with a lot of power, because you have cameras, because you have equipment, because you have this power to actually propagate the message that they want to convey to the world to other people may think that we carry a lot of privilege, but our utmost duty a lot of times is just to make sure that people realize that there is a bond of trust and equality between the documentary subject and the filmmaker, instead of a bond of power where one person is on the receiving end being the character and us the filmmaker holding more power. And oftentimes you want to break the ice by cracking a joke, but you don't know how far their sense of humor is going to allow you to go there. So it's all very complicated, and it's very funny sometimes that you're often playing by their rules because you're in their living room, but as you move forward in very, very complicated and mysterious ways, you actually create some rules and you set some rules of your own as you move ahead into the filmmaking process. Now, it's already, listen to all of this, feels like it's already a bit of a precarious balance, and the balance gets even more complicated when you walk into a situation where you're supposed to interview someone whose actions or thoughts or ideas may not be exactly what your ideas or thoughts or actions are. A lot of times we walk into situations where people may have committed acts that you may not fully agree with, acts that might come across as very outrageous. But what do you do in such a situation? Oftentimes, the most natural instinct is to walk in with a lot of judgment and then start asking questions as if it was a trial in a court. But that is not the way to go. Over the years, I've learned that that is the biggest mistake a documentary filmmaker can do when they're walking into a situation. Why? Because when you walk in with preconceived notions into a setting, you are already tainting the filmmaking process, the documentary filmmaking process, and what you're doing is that you are aiming to tell the story that you want to tell, and you're aiming to present people in a light that you see them in, instead of presenting them in a light that they want to be seen in, and presenting them in the light that they think about what they think who they are. So there's definitely this sort of situation that needs to be dealt with, and it is a balance that is achieved over time, but it is a balance that to acquire which you need to have a lot of focus, and you also need to have a lot of clarity in mind about how to do things. Now, I mean, the various situations, I can just tell you a story about it. For example, when we were making this documentary called The Girl in the River, The Price of Forgiveness, I was a co-producer in it, and I remember that the story basically follows the life of an honor-killing survivor, and she was a 19-year-old girl who was attacked by her own father, and the father ended up going to prison for that, but then the girl actually forgave her father, and the father was released from jail. So what happens is that one of the most profound moments from my entire documentary filmmaking career is related to that incident where I had to go to interview the father who had just been released out of jail for a few days ago. So I walk in with two of my colleagues, both of them actually happen to be ZZABIST alumni, Asad Faruqi and Wasif Arshad, and we go in, and I'm the person who's supposed to interview them, and we go in, and what happens is that, I mean, you could go with a lot of strong sensibilities and think that, oh, you might be just outraged walking into a home because you want to, you're about to interview someone who has gotten out of jail for attempting to kill his own daughter. But the thing is, there's no use of you being judgmental at the time. The moment we walked in, I was really surprised by the hospitality of the father, first of all. Like, made us sit down, served us tea, talked us about our journey, and really asked that, oh, aap to bahut dur se aaye hain, aap baithiye, and had like a light conversation. And then the cameras turn on, and as soon as the cameras turn on, I mean, there's this lull that really descends upon the shoot set, and everyone stays quiet, and everyone really, the filmmaker is supposed to ask genuine questions, and you put in a lot of trust in the person, and the person is obviously trusting you to be able to actually be in front of the camera and answer the questions. So, I mean, the common reaction could be that the filmmaker sits down and then starts pointing at them and starts asking questions about why they did it, whether they think they did something right, or whether they think that they did something wrong, and there could be a lot of accusations which may or may not lead anywhere. So what we decided to do was that we just took the approach of being non-judgmental, and we started to ask him questions. We essentially conceded the power we had because we had our cameras, we were telling their story, we had been following them for an entire year, but we decided to concede the power. And I asked him why he did what he did. And the answer really blew me away because he said that, well, the community told me to. And I said, well, why do you think the community told you to, and why is the community so important to you in the first place? And he gave this really profound answer. It hit me really hard. He said that, well, the kind of social setting that I am in, there is no law that protects me. There is no law enforcement agency that protects me. I do not enjoy any facilities given to me by the state. The only thing I have is my community, and if my community tells me to do something, I am bound by the regulations to do it. And if I need to get a paper signed, if I need to buy a property, if I want to get any paperwork done, I need to depend on that community because there are no other resources. Some of the most educated people in my community around me are from my community, so I'd rather just listen to what they are saying. And then the other thing he said was that that the community is important, and when the community asked my daughter to forgive me, even she had to listen to the community because she also does not have anyone else or any other entity, any other legal entity to depend on. So it gives you perspective that you may judge people as you want, but the thing is that the reality sometimes is stranger than fiction, and people's conditions often shape them in a way that they are bound to conduct actions that you may think are outrageous in your urban sensibility, because you might be occupying a space in the world where you enjoy your own rights, where you enjoy a lot of connections, a lot of networks. And then the second time something similar to me happened was when me and one of my colleagues went to Gilgit City, and we were about to interview someone. We were actually following a story where a brother had allegedly killed his sister and his mother in a case of honor killing. And we were told that while the brother is on the run, we can still go and talk to the father of this gentleman to just get to know what the case was like and what the situation was like. So we go in, and we had been told by even the local reporters that this father is actually a very fragile old man. He's aged, he's sick, and he's probably going to cooperate with you and just tell his family story. And we walk in, and 5 minutes into the interview, we get to know that the brother is not the actual murderer. It's that fragile old father who has actually killed his own wife and his daughter. And within the first 5 minutes, the guy is really like, the guy wants to show his aggression, the guy wants to show that he enjoys a lot of power. So he immediately lifts his pillow and takes out a gun and he said, "Ye mere paas gun hai aur ye loaded bhi hai." So we were like a little surprised, oh, this is not what we imagined we would walk into. And Asad and I, my colleagues, looked at each other for a second. We were like, okay, that's very cool. And obviously the sons of the father, the other sons really leapt at him and he said that, "Kya kar rahe ho mehmanon ke saath, hatao is gun ko." So they snatched the gun from him, but as soon as they snatched the gun from him, he really lifted the blanket and pulled out another gun. He's like, "Mere paas abhi bhi hai." Like, okay, chale, koi baat nahi, achhi baat hai, aapke paas hai. So now the thing is that the instant reaction, can you put it a little low now? Yeah, thank you. So the instant reaction you would have is you would just freak out and you would want to run out of that room. But really, what purpose does it serve if he shoots at you from the back? Like, it's not going to be a nice situation. So you just decide to stay there, and you decide to be calm, and you decide to concede your power. You decide to build some trust by just showing that I'm not running away from the situation. And he really explained why he did it. Obviously, his reasons really stemmed from notions of honor and sanctity and all of these things. The thing is, the more we talk to him, the more we realize that this guy really had issues with aggression. And had he been living in a more, let's say, urban environment, he might have been taken to actually get him some psychological help, because the way it felt like he had treated a lot of life situations was through violence and was through a lot of aggression. And then this interview is about to get done by 1 p.m. He's fed us, he's given us interview, he's really owned up to many tasks that he has committed in his life, and then he really, we're about to pick our bags at 1 p.m. Say कि चलें अब आपका बहुत शुक्रिया हम चलते हैं. He said कि no, you have to stop for lunch. आप बैठे खाना खाएं. He said नहीं, हमें खाना खाने की जरूरत नहीं है, बस आपने हमें इतना खिला दिया है. And the instant reaction, he picks up his gun. He has shaky hands. He's 85 years old. He's like, या तो खाना खाएगा या गोली खाएगा. Like, of course हम खाना खाएंगे. So we sit down, obviously, then he takes us to a restaurant with the gun in his hand. The restaurant is in beautiful Gilgit by a river. He hands us the menu. I try to be humble. I say, नहीं जो आप खाएंगे हम वही खाएंगे. He's like, तुम बताओ नहीं तो गन है मेरे पास. Like, जरूर हम ट्राउट खाएंगे, यहाँ से पकड़ते हैं. So we did that. Now the thing is that you need to, for filmmakers especially, but for people in general, there is this need to not judge people instantly. people commit all kinds of outrageous acts. It doesn't mean that you stop condemning them. You don't have to do that. But the thing is that there has to be a moment in all our lives, not just filmmakers' lives, but in all of your lives, where if you are confronted with an idea that you do not agree with or an action that you find condemnable, you just cannot, like, there's lesser power in you leaping up and just confronting that person by saying that तुम ऐसा कर भी कैसे सकते हो? This is not going to take us anywhere as a nation. You need to really pull people aside. And it's an emergency situation, obviously. If you're having a confrontation in a living room, you can't just say, how can you vote for XYZ party? Or तुम्हें समझ में नहीं आती तुम ऐसा कर क्यों सकते हो? No, the right tone is to ask, मुझे बताओ कि तुमने ये करने का फैसला क्यों किया है? या तुम्हें ये करने का दिल क्यों चाहता है? So just ask people. There are always reasons behind the way people act. In our lives, it's important to not get divided. Daniel and Sadia earlier talked about building narratives in Pakistan for the world to see. At the same time, I want to take the conversation forward by talking about what narrative do we want to build for our own selves within the country. Because oftentimes what people think locally matters, and we cannot not give enough importance to what the people in our cities and our smaller cities and our villages are thinking. You really need to not be judgmental. You need to have conversations where you can be direct with people, but there's no point of being aggressive. You need to be polite. You need to, when confronted with an idea that you don't agree with, just take a deep breath, pause for a second, and ask a question that can be very revealing. You can call people out for their actions, but that doesn't mean that you offend them when you ask them. This is the only way we can actually work together as a nation. I see increasingly people being divided into this wing and that wing, or that group and this group. In big cities, people in big cities have this major sort of chip on their shoulder where they think that they're the ones who have the right kind of mentality, and anyone in our so-called second-tier cities does not matter. I think this thought we need to really get away with. We need to get done with it. And the only way we can really move forward is to have more and more direct conversations. And in each conversation, it's very important to just concede your power sometimes and see what people are saying and see where people are coming from. Thank you.